Hi, I'm Richard Friedman, and welcome to my political cartoon video for September 16th, 2025. Here we have the latest. This is Richard's FBI Director Kash Patel flashbacks with President Trump. Okay, these are from the recent past. So, and I want to just as an additive to what happened today, I want to present this to you, and you decide. I'm going to present this to you in a way that you decide how you want to view it. Okay? Again, that's Richard's FBI Director Kash Patel flashbacks with President Trump, given today's committee combative. It was a combative Senate hearing. It wasn't a trial or anything like that. It was just a hearing, a Senate hearing. Okay? And in the recent past, there's Kash Patel. This was one of the flashbacks, President Trump. And here is Pam Bondi here, where she's being questioned before she was confirmed. And there's Mar-a-Lago, President Trump watching her. And that was the flashback. And there it was. And I'm going to read that to you in a few minutes. Just want to give you the overview here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so there was a very combative hearing today, and I want to get a little bit into that, and let's have a go at it. Kash Patel, FBI Director Kash Patel said, based upon the cartoons here, I wanted to basically clarify that these were past cartoons and that they were based on as close as I could get to the real McCoy of what was said back then. Okay? And in recent past, Kash Patel said he would go after people, including members of the media whom he accused of helping to rig the 2020 election for Joe Biden. So FBI Director Kash Patel, in his history, he did say that some people who would have to, there would be a retribution. And he didn't say, I don't know if he used the word retribution. I don't think he used that word. That was the word that was characterized today by some of the people on the committee there in the Senate who were kind of questioning him, and he defended himself. He got a little bit very upset here at some people, and I felt that if he had spoken about the deep state, and if he felt so adamant about the threat that the deep state posed, I felt he should have brought that forward. The people he fired and showed how they were affiliated with the deep state and what they did to detract from the FBI and what they were doing. And on the other side of the coin is that Senator Adam Schiff, he said that people were fired who had high expertise in cybersecurity, fighting terrorism, and things like that are vital to the protection. We know nobody. I don't think anybody forgot about 9/11 that day, and we don't want to go through anything similar to that or like that. And he raised the thought that people are being taken off fighting terrorism into going after these things that basically are not directed at that, directly protecting our country, and more in line of a retribution for the people who either worked in the FBI on cases that involved President Trump on January 6th, or things like that, were fired, and they're alleging that. Instead, he's directing people to go after so-called deep state instead of going after terrorists, potential terrorism, and cybersecurity. If somebody breaks into our defense system, our security, imagine if they have hacked into our defense system or our power grid or things like that, what could happen? So this is we have cyber warfare. In some cases, it could be just as bad. And I don't know, bad as atomic bomb, but it would be very, 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 very destructive to our country, and all that could happen. And these people had years and years of expert who are years and years in the FBI doing that kind of work, who had the expertise, were fired. So what FBI Director Kash Patel failed to do was to show why he fired the people he did. And they made the allegations that this was what happened. And Kash Patel should have said, well, look, I fired this person because he did this or did that, and he want to use the word deep, call it the deep state, call it whatever you want. They were working against the United States of America. And on the other side of the coin is that Adam Schiff didn't bring forth the names of the people who exactly were fired and what they were doing and their records and all that. You see, I know it was just a hearing, but it really got deep into a lot of stuff, and they should have been prepared, both sides, for this to happen. And I'm not equating the thing, but I'm saying it would have been a more effective impacting, let's say, discussion or whatever you want to call it, hearing. I would call it more than it was. Technically, it was designed to be a hearing, but it turned into more than a hearing. And I think that Adam Schiff and the other Democrat and some of the other Democrats who were strong about this should have had actual names of people who were fired, what they were doing, what their record was, and then present this. Why were they fired? And put it right at FBI Director. Why were they fired? And again, on the other side of the coin is Kash Patel said, I fired this person because I thought he was a member of the deep state. He was working against the President of the United States, and he was a threat to our nation. Why? So there you have it. I'm being very objective here, being as objective as I can be, as trying to give you the full picture of what my thoughts are, So here it is, and again, and today Patel faced questions on the Charlie Kirk probe, the Epstein files, and agent firings. Again, that goes back to what I just said. Okay, I'm not going to repeat myself for a change. Okay, and in his defense of allegations against him from Adam Smith, Patel screamed at Schiff, "We have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate in January 6th. I mean, in Russiagate and on the January 6th. And he's bringing up January 6th, saying that he lied about some of the people who were there, and some of the people were good people, or this or that, whatever you want to say. But he lied about January 6th, accusing Democratic Senator Adam Smith of lying about and Russiagate. Russiagate goes way back to when Obama did an investigation, and he thought that the Russians were working with Trump, and it turned out to be not true. And the Russians were supporting President Trump, but they weren't working directly with him, something along those lines. So they call that Russiagate, after the Watergate with Nixon. So everything gets a gate now. So they put on this on Russiagate. So that's how that came out to be Russiagate, in line with the Nixon Watergate, calling this came out, and Russiagate, and Kash Patel, he gave himself a lot of credit for that. And anyway, that's history. I don't want to fall into that trap of going back. And he called him, FBI Director Kash Patel, called Democrat Senator Adam Schiff, said to him, quote, "You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate," adding a political buffoon at best. You are a political buffoon at best. So he got into name callings. This is the FBI director here, making names, calling him all this and that and this and that. Instead of, again, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit. Again, instead of bringing up the names that he fired, saying this is why I fired him, he had connections with people who were working against the president, and working against the president is working against the president is working against the United States of America, and that's why I fired him. That never came out, and that would have made. So with that in line, with that background, that foundation, I present to you now the flashback. Okay, so here is Kash Patel. Here's President Donald Trump, thumbs up, and this is Pam Bondi here. And here's how this went. This goes back to January 17th, 2025. President-elect Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago watching. This is Mar-a-Lago here. There it is. Okay. I don't expect to ever be invited there, but it's a beautiful place to draw and look at. Okay. President-elect Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago watching his nominee for Attorney General Pam Bondi. At that point, she was nominated, hadn't been confirmed. Pam Bondi appeared before her Senate Judiciary Committee hearing amid Bondi dodging a question from Senator Mazie Hirono on who won the 2020 presidential election. Okay, so this is the most important thing. I don't want to get lost in the verbiage here. So this is the most important thing to highlight from this cartoon. So Pam Bondi, she couldn't answer that question, who won the election. Instead, she said, Joe Biden is the president of the United States. That was her response. It's just like it's kind of taking a diversionary course. The question, he is the president. Well, it leaves open the possibility that he may have stolen the election, and they may have a lot of people working that, but he's still the president. It leaves open that drawer, that space there. So she left open the space for people to still keep believing that the election was stolen. Okay, Joe Biden is the president of the United States. That was her response. Okay, and here goes President Trump here watching that, and here he goes. There again is Kash Patel here. Thumbs up, and President Trump thumbs up here. Okay. And President Trump is thinking about Kash Patel in this cartoon. You see, he's thinking about him. So this is his thoughts of Kash Patel as he watches Pam Bondi, okay? Back then, okay? And President Trump responds here, the 2020 election was stolen. As a result, Biden became president. Pam is a MAGA hybrid. See, she's a MAGA hybrid because she didn't say the election was stolen, and she didn't say it wasn't stolen. So that makes her like a hybrid, like gasoline electric cars. She's like one of them. She's not all gas and she's not all electric. So she's not all MAGA, and she's not all on the other side of the coin there. Okay. Deep state. Let's say deep state. I won't go that far. Okay, Pam is a MAGA hybrid, but my FBI man Kash here is not. So Kash is no hybrid. He is no hybrid MAGA. And here he's thinking of things that Kash Patel said, and I looked it up again to make sure that it was true. I didn't trust my own memory. And I didn't trust my own writing. I looked it up again to make sure that there was a reliable source that I had that said this. Okay, so here goes Kash Patel here, and now FBI Director Kash Patel saying this: we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens who helped Joe Biden rig presidential election 2020. Okay. So a lot of people now are saying this is retribution. This is that Kash Patel is just following President Trump and his word on retribution. When President Trump said, "I will be your retribution." So this is Kash Patel acting on behalf of that premise that President Trump said, and he is. That's what some people there today allege that, and Kash Patel threw names at them and this and that, and there you have it. He didn't really defend himself; he attacked. That's really what he did. So it seemed that way to me. Okay, so there it was, and there it was. That's how it went. And we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens who helped Joe Biden rig presidential election 2020. Okay. And that was President Trump watching Pam Bondi here on her taking confirmation questions and thinking about his FBI director, Kash Patel. And there's Kash Patel. The FBI Director Kash Patel. Okay. President Trump, thumbs up for the American flag. Okay, now the second part of this presentation is another flashback, and here we have Lindsey Graham on CBS, Face the Nation. There's Lindsey Graham here on Face the Nation, and there's the Capitol. Now here we have CBS News, Face the Nation. There it is. And there's Lindsey Graham here talking. Okay. And Lindsey's saying here, I am ready to vote for Kash Patel. This is before his confirmation as FBI director, when he was nominated by President Trump. Kash Patel. This is before that. I am ready to vote for Kash Patel because you will never ask me the role he played in exposing the Russia hoax. So that goes back to what he said about, what I previously mentioned, that he brought up the Russia Gate. So Russiagate was the Russian hoax. So that's what Kash Patel brought up today. So that seems to be that's the epitaph down in history books that he will be remembered for, is the Russia of exposing the Russia hoax. That was what Kash Patel. That's his grandstanding the grandstanding event in his history. Okay, that if the textbooks are ever rewritten in our schools, Kash Patel will come off as a great. When the textbooks, if they are ever rewritten, the history books, Kash Patel, there'll be a special chapter on him, I'm sure, of how he exposed the Russia hoax, the Russia Gate, and he will go down as a great contributor to the American democracy and America. His contribution to America in the future American history book. We can be sure of that. Okay. That was the darkest moment of the FBI. So now Lindsey Graham is expounding on that about the Russia hoax, and that was launched by President Obama to make sure that no other that there was no influence in the election. It wasn't directed at, to my interpretation, they were doing an investigation to see if there was Russian interference and to what extent that interference went to, if it traveled into the campaign. They came out, it didn't, but they did conclude that the Russians had tried to mess with the election and failed to do that on a technical level, to change any votes or anything like that. But they did put stuff up there. So anyway, the thing is that Lindsey, again here, is subscribing to that view. And he's saying that was the darkest moment of the FBI since J. Edgar Hoover. So I'm not going to go into J. Edgar Hoover. You can look that up on your you could Google J. Edgar Hoover and find that out for yourself. Your number one worry should not be Kash Patel. That's what Lindsey said. It should be about reporting the news fairly about Donald Trump, which you don't. So there's this ardent supporter of President Trump going back, there it was. I'm not going to go into the history of Lindsey Graham either, because that's not the task of this cartoon. It's just to portray the surrounding the surrounding thing here of what's of what's going on, of what had gone on. Okay. All right. And here we have President Trump watching Lindsey Graham on CBS's Face the Nation. Yeah. There's Lindsey Graham and President Trump, and President Trump is saying here he is. Lindsey gets it. Oh, on Kash's next day in office, he means, I'm going to help him to reopen that shut down FBI Hoover building as the new FBI Kash Patel Museum of the Deep State. So Kash Patel did say that he was going to shut down the FBI and turn it into a museum of the deep state. okay? Which means that he's going to kick out the deep state. So you could assume that he kicked out people he thought were members of the deep state, right? That's what you could assume. But if he thought that and that was hurting the country, when he was up there, he should have said, I threw out this guy because he was a member of the deep state and I'm this and that, or if he didn't want to, and Kash Patel always used the deep state, so he should use it again. Say this is exactly what the man was doing and what he did. His history was on January 6th or whatever, and that, in my view, was detrimental to the president of the United States and the country. That's what he should have. That's would have been a good thing for him, or not. Maybe not, but it would have been at least the American people would have got something out of today. All we got was a bunch of name calling and this and that, and the thing was that it was brought up, the cybersecurity problem. People, one Democratic senator said he was very worried that we shouldn't have a 9/11 or something even worse than that, go off a bit. But he accused Kash Patel of making that possibility greater by the fact that he dismissed and threw out so many people with so many years of experience who were dedicated to the FBI were fired without justification, and that put the country in a dangerous position. One Democratic senator said that, and I don't want to get into the politics, names, this and that, but I heard it, and that's something that Kash Patel should have responded to without calling names. He should have said, I fired this guy. Again, I'm not going to, leave it at that. So there you have my view, okay? And then again, here is what I drew. This is the FBI building, you see, and that it's now become under Kash Patel. I kind of hypothecated or drew the FBI building here, the Hoover FBI building here. There it is, and I did FBI Kash Patel Museum because he said he was going to throw out the building and change it into a museum of the deep state. So here it is, the FBI Kash Patel Museum of the Deep State, established 2025. There it is. That's what he didn't do it. He may have meant that figuratively, but he did do it figuratively, not literally. He may have done it figuratively, but he didn't do it literally. But I took it a little literally here in doing this cartoon to present the point. Okay, and here is a member of the deep state, a statue of the deep state, because he's going to be a museum of the deep state, right? So here I drew, in my mind, a picture of somebody who would be a deep stater. I didn't pick out any person in particular, just in my mind, conjured up a liberal character who's thinking there, and that would be a deep stater, the Museum of the Deep State that Kash Patel would establish here, and there'd be all museum pieces of the deep state, and this is outside of the building here, a symbolic member of the deep state sitting there, and there it was. That was my statue of the deep state outside the museum of Kash Patel's deep state. When he took over, he said he would do. And there you have it, folks. Thank you for watching my video. God bless you. Hang in there, and I'll see you next time. Hang in there, folks. Bye.